Aloha, Kamaka Brown here on Annie Talks. You know the song, Annie Talks, Annie Talks. It's very catchy. It's very catchy. You can find me, Kamaka Brown, on Sandwich Islands Network Radio, V93FM.com.
Welcome to the show. Here's the host, it's Annie Talks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Annie Talks podcast, where we bring to you interesting stories about interesting people that you want to know about. I'm your host, Annie Rivera. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. We're glad that you stopped by. But if you've been here before, as always, thank you, and welcome back. Now, today's guest, I'm super excited to have today's guest. I've been trying to get this gentleman on this podcast forever, even though I'm on the road and at events with him, because he is, after all, my creative director and the mastermind behind the Sandwich Islands Network radio station. I've finally nailed his fins to the ground, and we sat down and we had a conversation on the Annie Talks podcast. Let me tell you a little bit more about Uncle Kamaka Brown. His bio reads like a who's who of entertainers. He has so much experience, and all his credits that are listed in the bio, you can actually read in the show notes below. I'm going to touch on some of the more recent things. Kamaka Brown is a multi-talented entertainer, producer, publisher, writer, actor, master of ceremonies, entrepreneur, and stand-up comic. He was born in Honolulu and raised in Waimea Valley on the North Shore of Oahu. He's been performing in Honolulu and Southern California for more than 20 years. He has a list of TV credits and performing credits. Like I said, you can read down in the show notes below. Recently, he's been on tour, at least for the past 2 years, with Andy Bumatai, who is the original stand-up comic from Hawaii. Now, as a comic and master of ceremonies, he's opened for blues legend B.B. King, rock and roll icon Chuck Berry, and Motown's Temptation in Honolulu. Again, he's got quite the extensive bio. Feel free to read down below in the show notes. Now, how I've come to know Uncle Kamaka Brown is through the Sandwich Islands Network Radio, which you can find at V93FM.com. He is the creative director, the founder, CEO, owner of Sandwich Islands Network Radio. He's expanded the network from California, Southern California to Hawaii, and pretty much all over globally, because you can actually hear Sandwich Islands Network Radio globally through the internet, on internet radio. We stream island music, contemporary island music 24/7. So he's the mastermind behind that. And I'm so privileged and honored that Uncle Kamaka Brown brought me on board as one of the Sin crew, as we're known. So this conversation is near and dear to my heart, and I just wanted to bring to you, because he typically is always the gentleman, the master of ceremonies behind the mic, usually when interviewing all the talent and celebrities, entertainers and performers and halal, kumus and that kind of thing. I thought it would be nice for all of you to get to know the voice and the person behind the microphone. So this is our opportunity to get to know Uncle Kamaka Brown on a very intimate level. So without further delay, here now is my conversation with Kamaka Brown.
Well, I have the wonderful privilege of welcoming onto the Annie Talk Show, Uncle Kamaka Brown. Uncle, thank you so much for being here. Really, truly appreciate it.
Annie Talks. I finally am on Annie Talks. This is exciting. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's the other way around. I'm super excited to have you on my show. I'm so thrilled to have you. You know, we nailed you down finally.
I know we've been talking about this. We've been talking about this for forever, and we both get busy on different projects. But thank you for reminding me and making it happen. Thanks.
Oh, absolutely. Now, we just kind of went through your impressive bio there just a few minutes ago, and he's got quite the impressive bio, everyone. So, Uncle, why don't you fill in the gaps and let everybody know maybe your background. I'd love for everyone to know about your upbringing, specifically in Hawaii, and leading up to who Kamaka Brown is today.
Yeah, thanks, Annie. Real humble background, really. Brought up in the country, rural Oahu on the North Shore. Went to Kahuku Elementary. We were living on Sunset Beach. We moved to Waimea Bay in the 50s. And so went to Wailua Elementary and Wailua Intermediate, real country. What's funny is I say to my daughter, when Daddy was growing up, we didn't have electricity. We had an ice box where we actually went to the country store to get a block of ice to put into the ice box, and because we didn't have electricity. And my daughter, she must have been, I don't know, 6 or 7 years old, if that, and wasn't trying to be funny. She looked at me with those big brown eyes and she said, "Daddy, had dinosaurs there?" And just really humble country. And I never forget my country upbringing. Whenever I go back home to the islands, I always spend time out in the country, connecting with the chickens that get up at 5:30 in the morning. I was staying at a friend's house in Haleiwa, right? 5:30, the chickens are going, and he's, later that day, he's apologizing to me. And I said, "Brah, please don't apologize. That's a rooster serenade. That's how, if without the chickens, come on now, man. I love it, So,
oh, that is so beautiful. See, and I love to hear all the stories. If you know me, if anybody knows me, I love a background story. I love everything behind the scenes. I just love to, I think I was probably an historian in my past life, who knows? So I just love all the backstories, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us. Now, so part of what we want to talk about is SYN Radio, and for those who don't know what SYN Radio is, it's an acronym for Sandwich Islands Network Radio, which I'm a part of. I'm so honored to be a part of. And of course, Uncle Kamaka Brown is the founder and the creative director behind it. So, but before SYN Radio, can you paint a picture of the type of work that you were doing before that?
Oh my goodness. There were no girls in the house, so just my brother and I. And so my parents worked in the city, we're living in the country. And so I'm the older one. So I would cook rice, and then, saute vegetables, with meat or shrimp or whatever. So I always loved cooking, and I learned so much from my mom about cooking. So right after high school, I did the University of Hawaii culinary program, and I actually cooked for was in the food and beverage industry for more than 25 years. Worked my way up from being a line cook at the Del Webb Kuilima with Sam Choi as my sous chef, the great Pacific Rim cuisine chef, all the way up to being a food and beverage director of restaurants for a number of large properties.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at Sheraton Waikiki. I worked at the Hilton Hawaiian Village, Kahala Hilton. So that was, and then I decided that I really needed to do something else. And I started to work in the telecommunication industry. And so as a trainer, because I was always training waiters, training cooks, training, people in the bar. So I took my training skills. I learned a brand new product in telecommunications. So I spent the next 25 years working for a large telecommunication company. They're the reason that I moved to California and settled in California in 1997.
Wow.
And then later retired. I was there actually a corporate trainer on the road with the footprint of that company. And so I retired in 2007. And from then on, just wanted to do something that was really enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always enjoyed radio, and I've always enjoyed entertainment. And so had an idea, to start an internet radio station. And so that's what I did in 2012, actually, when Sandwich Island Network Radio came into being.
Mm. See, and he's got the radio voice, he's got the persona, he's very charismatic in all that he does. And he's truly the icon here in Southern California. I mean, anytime there is a Hawaiian festival or a Polynesian festival or some sort of islander event happening all over Southern California, you'll be sure, almost more than certain, to see Uncle Kamaka Brown there, because he is definitely the icon here.
You can't get rid of him.
But no island event or no Hawaiian event is truly complete without you. in your
You know what it is, Annie, that I've been really blessed to have had the support of so many wonderful people that I've connected with here in Southern California, in and out of the Polynesian community that have helped me achieve the goals of the Sandwich Island Network Radio to serve the community here. It has not been a one-man show. I may have been the face, out there on the stage or behind the microphone or the voice, but in no way has it ever been a single effort. It has been a combined effort. And even now, right down to the present day, Annie, you came on board and a collaborative effort with Annie Talks and with Sin Radio about 2 years ago, right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
It really has been. And I just remember, I'm digressing, but it's neither here nor there, but I just remember maybe a couple years back, remember how I reached out to you at one point and I said, would you be interested in having somebody come on board like me and, be a fly on the wall? And at the time there was nothing going on where you were able to bring me back on. But I think a year later afterwards, we just said, yeah, let's just make it happen. And I was so grateful. I mean, I said, I have to jump right in with both feet, and hit the ground running. And I was so thankful.
Well, Annie, I've said this to you before, and I want to say it again for those that are watching. Annie has been such a great addition to the Sandwich Island Network, Ohana. She has brought a wonderful set of skills that have brought us up to date, has kept this old guy kicking over here with the new technologies, with the live streaming, getting onto Instagram, getting on board with Twitter, that kind of stuff has been so beautiful. And thank you so much for what you have brought to the group here.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. And I mean, like I said, I'm very, very thankful for the opportunity, not just for, myself, but obviously to add value to Sin Radio. So thank you so much. And for entrusting me to be able to come on board and, adding value to Sin Radio. But so going back to the story, so I want to know what was that final moment where you said, this is the way I want this to happen? Because I know you mentioned earlier about that it's not a one-man show, it's not a one-man operation. But besides that, I want to know some of the challenges that you might have faced with Sin Radio, and how did you overcome them? First of all, what was that aha moment? And then second of all, the challenges you faced and how you overcame them.
Well, I come from a generation, I guess, the baby boomer generation that, we liked a certain kind of music. And it was the music that I grew up with. I grew up with the contemporary island music of Kalapana and Billy Cowie and, all of those groups, the Makaha Sons, and all of that, Tomonado and on and on. And I wasn't hearing that on island radio when I was listening. What I was hearing was, and it's nothing against that form of music, I was hearing Jawaiian reggae music, which is wonderful, and it is a part of the music industry, but it really wasn't the music of my generation. I didn't think the music of my generation was being represented on island radio. Connect to that is I had the pleasure of meeting so many talented musicians and artists living right here in Southern California with connection with the islands. Mm-hmm. And they weren't getting airplay. I mean, they had CDs and music out there, and I was not hearing it on island radio. When I tune in online, they were playing great music from Hawaii, but so many Hawaiians and Hawaiians at heart with people's connections with the islands living here on the West Coast, on the mainland, were not getting their music out there. And so one of the things I really wanted to do was to put a radio station together, an internet radio station together, so that anybody globally could tune in as long as they've got an internet connection, mm-hmm. and they could hear music of the generation of, growing up in the 60s and 70s, plus music from artists that are living on the mainland, on the continent, if you will, that aren't getting representation back home in the islands. So that's kind of like what I really wanted to do when I started Sandwich Island Network Radio.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's obviously flourished into what it is now. And I've only been on board for maybe 2 years at best. And just the following that you've built up is just tremendous. So, I definitely have nothing but good things and kudos to you for building that having that creative mind and knowing that this is what was missing here in Southern California. So, or maybe even worldwide. But thank you for that vision and for making that vision come to fruition. But what were some of the challenges with any startup or with any business? I mean, even for me as a podcaster, right? As a host of my own podcast, just the struggles that I've been through, and I'm still facing some of those. But what would you say were some of the challenges that you faced that you were able to maybe just kind of take apart and then face it and then overcome it?
I think, one of the things, of course, initially comes to mind is finances, and getting the right equipment, getting the right kind of technology to make my dream or my picture, the image that I had in my head, come true. I say to the group, and you heard me say this before, Annie, I'm an idea guy. I'm a great idea guy. I got, this would be a great, but I'm not a good detail person. So I think I learned this.
Differ.
Well, I learned, I read something about Bill Gates at one point with Microsoft, right? And he launched, a program. I remember this is the early days. What is it? Windows 95 or Windows 96. They launched it. And I remember people were like lining around the block to go and get that, and then download, right? Back in the day. And they had all kinds of bugs and all kinds of problems, all kinds of issues. And I went, oh my goodness, he launched a product that had a lot of bugs in it. But he said, he had this idea. He said, I'm going to go ahead and jump and I'll invent my parachute on the way down.
Wow.
So I thought, instead of waiting until I amassed the amount of money to buy the technology or to buy, just go for it with the hope that along the way, folks will come along and help you build a parachute. Because
that's true, right? Because once they realize the vision has come, that you were not only a visionary, but you were actually creating and making it happen. Yeah, I can see how people would want to jump on board, and especially because with something like in radio and how much it's touching lives here, and bringing nostalgia, or even sparking some new, or rekindling some new, some old sparks, or even sparking some new fire in some of the new generation. For me, especially, I'm not Hawaiian, but I love it, and being around it, definitely, and you allowing me to be a part of that. I fully embraced it, so I can see how something like this. Having that vision and making it happen, and you had the passion to do it. So you're just like Bill Gates.
Yeah, and so my trust was that folks would see me doing it and would say, that looks like a great idea. I'd like to come and pick up a corner of that load and help you carry that load. There were folks that came along and said, hey, we love what you're doing. It's really great. Yay, and keep on going. And I would say, oh, thank you very much. But there are others like yourself and others that came along and said, we like what you're doing. Let us help pick up a corner and we'll carry a little bit, because many hands make the load light. And so it's been a real blessing. As I said, not a one-man show. Yeah. There is an entire family, my own Sin Crew Ohana, that come on board and do what they can to help move us forward. And we're now into, many years later from 2012. And again, we have folks that are still helping me carry that load, like yourself. And I'm really blessed and appreciative of that.
Awesome. So on the flip side of that, on the flip side of the challenges, now what would you say is maybe some of the most rewarding or worthy achievements thus far?
One thing that I'm really, really proud of is I wanted to, as I said, one of the original ideas behind Samurai Jawa Network Radio was to promote artists that are living here on the mainland. And, I thought, instead of taking a big chunk, all of the mainland, why not just reach out into close proximity to where I live here in Southern California? And so I said, wouldn't it be cool if we put together a music project with as many artists that we could fit on a CD in a project with original music, they performing original music, put that out there as a fundraiser, as a benefit for Sandwich Island Network Radio. But it would be a wonderful way to get these folks out there. I was really, really blessed to have Red Light Fever Studios with recording engineer Chris Trainer to open his studio up and say, you know what, you can have studio time. These folks want to come in and record their original music. Come on down. I was going, whoa, thank you.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
so it was so exciting. I had the idea. I didn't work out the details yet. I just went ahead and jumped, and other folks came on board, helped me build that parachute. We launched the project. We called it California 808 because 808 is the area code for Hawaii. And of course, California 808 would be like that musical highway between California and Hawaii. And we had 7 or 8 great musicians come on board with original music. They performed it. And it was, in some ways, a nice little launch pad for their careers or for exposure. And it was also a benefit for the Sandwich Island Network Radio. So I'm really proud of that as a collaborative project with a number of great folks that came on board to help me realize that vision. So I'm really, really proud of that one.
That's awesome. So I will have the link for California 808, the CD, down in the show notes. So if anybody is interested, and you want to have a copy, it's available for purchase, and I'll have all that information down in the show notes for you. It's a great album. I have it as well, and it's just beautiful. If you ever wanted a taste of, the local talent here, not just local, but, I think it stretches to, are they mostly all local here in California?
Yeah, all living here in Southern California. Is everything from slack key to Hawaiian to reggae to jazz to swing and pop. Just a fun project, and I was really blessed to be part of it.
Awesome.
And yeah, you can. It's on download on iTunes and and all of that. So.
Awesome. I will have that link for all of you followers and all you listeners and all of you new people that have jumped on board.
Thank you.
It's certainly link down below, and you don't want to miss this beautiful. I love the album, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful, and it just it's a touch of class, a touch of Hawaiian, just a Hawaiian. Just the culture about it is just beautiful. So you wouldn't want to miss it. So
and there's this crazy guy named Kamaka Brown that has an original tune on there too. I didn't want to miss.
What's his name?
I don't want to name drop. But.
That's hilarious. So now, so you've built Sin Radio from the ground up. It's evolved obviously throughout the years. So now, what's new for Sin Radio? Where do you see it, Sin Radio, in say 5 years from now?
Well, I see in a couple of things of just, and you've been very instrumental in helping me come to the realization of podcasts as a real huge wave. I mean, it is a wonderful way to connect with folks whenever they want, whatever platform they want to use, when they're on the go, when they're at home, on their phones, on their computers, on their any wireless device. So thanks to you and your suggestion, we have just kind of tipped our toes into podcasting for Sin Radio. We already have several that's already in the can, if you will, as well as live streaming. And so we are using social media. We've invested in some technology that makes live streaming pretty cool. We can use multiple cameras now rather than just, when you see, a lot of times when you see a Facebook Live, someone just has their phone and it's wobbly and and it looks very unprofessional. So we are now just getting used to some brand new equipment that has been made possible by listener support, and we'll be using it at several of the festivals this summer. So that's what we're excited about as well. Yeah,
and you know what, you guys. Uncle Kamaka mentioned about some of the events that will be streaming live even now and as we speak and into the future. You can always check their Facebook page there. I say there like I'm not part of it. Always check our Facebook page. It's Sandwich Islands. If you go to Sandwich Islands Network Radio, I believe, that if you just do a search, you'll find it. We list some of the upcoming events in our on our Facebook page, and you can certainly come on board, and wherever and whenever it's available, we will stream live from those events, and you can, be part of that. And part of that event. It's almost like being immersed in it, because we bring to you some, we bring commentary, we show you what's happening out on the stage, and once in a while we even have some of the talent come back and interview. So who knows what's up our sleeve in the next feature, right? In the next couple months or weeks and months. But again, it's the visionary of Uncle Kamaka Brown that's making it happen, and all of us are just jumping on board because we just love it, and we want to be able to just add value. And I love technology, and that's the whole reason why I'm like, I gotta jump on. So yeah. But it's true. So I will have all that information. Like I said, I'll have the link to social media. Our, I think we even have we have a YouTube page. We have our Facebook page. We have all of our social media, and I'll have all that information for you down below in the show notes, so you guys can check around on that. What happened?
They're coming for you, Annie.
Coming for me. Oh, they found me. So now, knowing what you know now, and experience what you've experienced and what you've gone through over the many, many years, what would you tell your 21-year-old self? What would you go back and say to your 21-year-old self?
I think I would say to my 21-year-old self to take more time to get to know people. So many folks I've crossed paths with over the years, and I don't know whether it's an indication of my own mortality or how old I am, but so many of my contemporaries are passing. That took along with them so much knowledge, a treasure of information, culturally, socially, and I wish that I would have spent more time with these folks, sitting down and picking their brains, or having a much more of a relationship with folks, just to learn more. And I think if anything, I would say to my 21-year-old self to take more time to interact with folks, get to know folks, learn what their stories are, because once they're gone, their stories many times pass with them.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's really good advice for not just yourself, your younger self, but for anybody, because you're right. I mean, you create these relationships with people, and it's really a sad thing if you're not able to connect with them and learn about them and learn who they are and the person that they are. So I love that advice. We're all so busy, and here, especially in California, we're a commuting state. All the colleges, they say, half the time they have so many kids that go in and out of the colleges, and they're commuter colleges, that they really don't have a whole lot of time to enjoy life. So I think that goes, what you just said in terms of that advice is for everybody in any situation.
Annie, in fact, well, you were with me, but that evening, I had met this musician couple. He's so talented, wonderful voice, comes from a long line of musicians with his family, and nice enough, fellow, and we, in passing, hey, how you doing? Hey, how's it going, brah? And so forth. And with this in mind, I now really want to reach out to folks, and so we were at a outdoor, we were at a whole aulea only recently, right? And I had said to him and his wife, why don't we do dinner? Let's. And he goes, hey, that's a great idea, And I said, well, we'll find a place and we'll go sit down, and because I know him by face, I know him and his wife. We see each other, quite often because he's an entertainer, and I'm usually associated with some event. But I did not know anything about him and his wife, other than that they're just beautiful, great, talented folks. And you joined us for dinner that night, and we sat around it and just talked story and just laughing and have a great time. And we came away so enriched. I came away, I think you did too, so enriched by just spending that quality time. But you got to make the time to do it. Be very mindful and be very purposeful to make it happen. Otherwise, the time just slips by.
That's absolutely correct. I mean, I honestly, I had no idea that you two, that I didn't realize that the two of you hadn't known each other that way. I mean, you'd never guess, because I thought you were all, this is such a, tight knit community that we were all, good friends. But you're absolutely right. Sitting there and being a part of, I was like a fly on the wall, but just, but being a part of that and listening to all the stories and the knowledge and his upbringing and how he became a musician and learning all of that, and then just hearing about the connections that you two had, coming to know the same musicians over the years.
Exactly.
They were relatives, and oh my gosh, it was so good.
I would have never known anything about that if we hadn't sat down and shared a meal, and the laughter and the humor and just good. And it was so good for the heart, so good for the soul, in that we had purposely carved out that niche of time to make it happen, and it was so beautiful. And thank you for coming and joining us, because you helped make that whole evening so much more enjoyable as well. So good fun. We had good fun.
Yep. Good advice, everybody. So make those relationships happen. Get to know everybody. Just take a few minutes to even if it's like Uncle says, we're oftentimes we just see each other in passing. We just say hello, but make the time and be purposeful in your relationships. Be purposeful in getting to know each other. So that's good advice for me. So I'm definitely going to take that to heart. Now, as for parting words and as a takeaway, what words of wisdom would you like to share with our followers and our listeners?
I think aloha is a two-way street. It's giving back, not just experiencing it and feeling, being part of a community or enjoying. I had a conversation with a young man who has since passed, and he said to me, he said, folks go to Hawaii and they take pictures and they say, oh, I took a video and I took a picture. They're always taking, and we do that too. We take pictures of moments. But how much do we give back to those moments and being in those moments? And I think it's really important that if we enjoy that which comes from the spirit of Hawaii, the spirit of aloha, that we as well take it upon ourselves to give back in whatever way we can. And I think a real special, Coach John Wooden, who passed away, said, for him, a perfect day was doing something for someone that they could not pay him back for. Wow. His day wasn't complete unless he could do something for someone, and he knew that they could not pay him back. And so when you think about that in terms, it kind of causes us to take a second look at people around us. Our society has become so fragmented in so many ways, and our nation is so fragmented. And I think we all need to, on a one-to-one basis, be more mindful of each other and appreciate each other even more. And that's the spirit of aloha. And so now more than ever before, I think aloha is an important quality for us to take in, to grow on, and to be nurtured and warmed by, but for us also to give as well.
Yes, and we say this, and it never really quite understood when I would hear the term, spreading the aloha. And but being a part of Sin Radio, I see firsthand, what we do and what we do as a community is we do spread that aloha, and I love it. And again, I am so indebted to you and so thankful and grateful for all that you've done for me and bringing me on board and sharing your aloha with me. So thank you.
It's been a pleasure. If I can share just one real quick short story, and again, it happened. You were there. We were at a festival out in San Diego, and there was a halal or a dance studio that was performing on stage, and we had our Sin Radio booth right next to the sound guys, and we had an area that's kind of cordoned off because we didn't want people walking through there and hurting themselves because we had cables going back and forth and things. And so you had folks that, and here was this grandmother, as it turned out. She was kind of leaning over, she's trying to take a picture, she's trying to catch her granddaughter on stage. It was quite so far away. So I said to her, here, come, come, and she said, oh, no, that's okay. I said, no, please come. I took her by the hand and I guided her up into the center of the area so she could get a perfect shot of the stage. And she was there with her her camera phone, and she was taking, as it turns out, I didn't realize that she was taking a picture of her granddaughter, and she said, thank you. I said, no problem, and she took the time to send me a message on Facebook to say, Kamaka, you don't know how much that meant to me. That was my granddaughter. That was her first time that she was on stage. You made it possible for me to get beautiful pictures. I wanted to say mahalo, mahalo, mahalo. And I was kind of getting a little perclumped over here going, oh, that was, for me, it was nothing. It was like natural. It was like, come over here, Tutu, come over here. Yeah. But for her, it was huge, huge, huge.
Yes.
And so, sharing of aloha is something that for us, well, not only as a way of life, but it's something that we continue to share. And you never know how it hits somebody, how it affects someone. And this was huge for her.
Yeah.
And it gave me chicken skin. It was
like, See, I told you, everybody, Epitome of Aloha. This is why I love being a part of Sin Radio. And I'm super grateful and completely indebted to you. So thank you, Uncle, for bringing me forward and sharing the aloha and letting me learn from you, and in turn being able to spread the aloha with it.
This Tutu man is learning from you. Come on now.
Oh, stop. This is a love fest. I could go on forever.
You can teach one old dog new tricks. I've been learning new tricks from Annie.
Well, we help each other. So we're, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity to be able to at least, instill a little bit of my knowledge with Sin Radio. But I'm like a sponge. I'm soaking it all in. I'm learning from the best. So so thank you, everybody. I will have all that information, all of Sandwich Islands Network radio station down below in the show notes. Why don't you give a quick shout out to our social media and our webpage, Uncle?
Yes, absolutely. We are on Instagram, we are on Twitter, we are also on Facebook, and you can catch us and my it is v93fm.com is our webpage for Sandwich Island Network Radio, v93fm.com. You can also connect with me on kamakabrown.com or catch me on Facebook as well. We are very connectable.
Yes, we are. And like I said, I will have all that information down in the show notes. So everybody, please be sure to click on it and like and subscribe to Sandwich Island Network's radio, YouTube channel, all the social media. So you won't be disappointed because, like I said, because we cover, huge ground from pretty much all over Southern California, sometimes into Las Vegas too. So we're all over the place. So you'll get a dose of Hawaiian culture, and I guarantee you're probably just going to love it. Like I loved it. And
if I might, Annie, just before we go, just real quick, a huge mahalo, shout out to all of the Sandwich Island Network Radio Ohana that help with all the projects. Right. There are 40 or 50 of folks in our community, and forgive me for not mentioning all of your names, but you have made it possible, helped me build that parachute when I jumped off with an idea, with a project. Mahalo, thank you so much. I am ever grateful for the Ohana, the family of folks that have come together to help make these projects and these ideas that I've had become reality. And I'm ever grateful. Mahalo.
Well, that's it, everyone. everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Annie Talks and hearing from Kamaka Brown, the founder, owner, and creative director of Sandwich Islands Network Radio at v93fm.com. I will have all the information to all the social media down below in the show notes, so be sure to check them out. And you can read through all his bio and all his credits and accolades down below in the show notes as well. Now, before we go, if you haven't already subscribed to the Annie Talks podcast, I invite you to hit subscribe and be notified anytime we upload a new episode. And if you could also rate and review this podcast, it will surely help me out and it will help others to find this podcast too. You can also follow Annie Talks on social media. I will have all that information down below in the show notes as well. Thank you all so much for tuning in and keep listening and watching Annie Talks.
Aloha, Kamaka Brown here with v93fm.com, and so blessed to be part of Annie Talks. You can find me on the Sandwich Islands Network Radio, v93fm.com. Catch us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.